Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in the Amagi. You couldn't have a blast from the past, an OG of OG, by showcasing that the Iowa can still play without playing the Amagi as well, the other OG Tier 7 battleship. As you guys may recall, or maybe you don't, back in the day there were only two Tier 7 battleships, and that was the Amagi and the Iowa. So, yeah, just felt right. But, what am I doing? Commander! We're running Andrew Cunningham and Paolo DeRevel as our inspirations, Takio Takagi, Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, Reaching Out XXL, Fight Fire with Fire. We're running Aiming Systems Mod 1. We're running Steering Gears Mod 2. We're running the Concealment System mod, and we're running the Main Battery Mod 3. I should really upgrade this, but I always forget. So, yeah. You know what? Let's do it right now. There you go. It's upgraded. Perfect. From now on, I'll be able to do good things, right? But yeah, so this is one of the ships that I think truly has been power crept. But it doesn't mean it can't still do good things. I just think that this ship, personally, has been power crept. Not only did the nerf early on hurt it pretty bad, but let's get to the gameplay and we'll talk about the rest. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Sea of Fortune. We're in the Amagi, and let's talk about why I think that the Amagi has been power crept. Now, those of us OGs remember back when the Amagi was truly an absolute monster. But again, there were only two Tier 7 battleships back then. So it made sense that this would be an absolute monster, right? Because there's only two. But anyway, the reason that the Amagi is power crept and why I think it has lost its edge over the years is it's always been a tale of two ships. But it used to be able to supplement the fact that it was a tale of two ships by easily closing the distance, using its speed and using its turtleback armor scheme, which a lot of people forget that it has. It does have a slight turtleback. It's maybe not up to the same level as the German battleships, but it does have a turtleback armor scheme. And it used to have an even faster rudder than it does now. That was the big nerf, when they nerfed the Nagato and they nerfed the Amagi. Now, these were ships that were primarily used by good players back in the day. You had the Iowa that was used by everybody, right? Which is why it seemed like it was so strong, is because you just saw Iowas everywhere. But the Amagi was a little bit under the radar, and it was very good. It was always very good, specifically at that mid-range and close range, kind of brawling. And that is what has been power crept over the years. With the differences in the meta and the differences in the the overall coverage of ships through the years that have evolved, the getting up close and personal in the Amagi just isn't really a viable strategy most of the time anymore. Can you do it? Absolutely. You get the right set of circumstances, the Amagi is fully capable of still doing things. But Amagi has been kind of relegated back to its traditional Japanese battleship long-range sniping sort of rule. And it can do that really well, but you're still going to get that Japanese battleship troll dispersion, right? So that's why I think that this ship truly has lost its edge over the years. It truly has been power crept, because the primary way that it used to be played was a mid-range and up-close brawler, using that turtleback, using the easy rudder shift to be able to get up close and personal, mitigate damage by doing the Dreadnought Shuffle, unleash powerful, 10-gun broadsides. All that stuff has really been taken away from it, so it has to kind of stick at range most of the time to get better results more often than not. Now, these guns are still nasty. They still have the ability to punch just about anything if it's given an opportunity and given the right set of circumstances. But it really has, that nerf specifically really hurt its ability up close and personal to be able to get all 10 guns on board and get back without getting slapped around, right? And I think that is the definition of power creep. When I think of power creep, I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday during the Iowa video. But again, when I think of power creep, I think of, well, in our context, ships that were brought into the game were pretty good when they first come in, but over the years, as more ships have come in and different ships have come in that maybe counter their playstyle, that it kind of limits their effectiveness. Whereas Iowa, my argument for why the Iowa hasn't been power crept is that it's so versatile. You can use it as a brawler, you can use it as a mid-range, you can use it as a long-range sniper. It is good at everything. It can tank damage, it can dish it out. Like, there's really not a bad thing about the Iowas. That's why there are 3 of them in the game. That's why they are so good. I don't think that the original Iowa has lost its effectiveness. I think that there are other ships in the game that people prefer to play, but that's not power creep as much as it is that those ships have better gimmicks or whatever, whether it be radar, whether it be slightly more accuracy or more damage, or planes or whatever. But that doesn't limit the effectiveness of the Iowa. That simply gives you more options that you might maybe rather play. Now, personally, I still love the Iowa, take it out all the time. The Amagi, I love the Amagi, always have, but I'm not going to go out here and play the Amagi all the time just because it's painful a lot of times. You know how long it takes to get like a fun Amagi match? A lot of times you're going to get in here, you're going to get in the Amagi, you're going to have a pretty standard, 80k game, which isn't bad, but I mean, is it really a fun game in that sense? No. From battleships, we like those big hits. We like those big games. We like the games that go down to the wire, that, every play matters. And you're going to see where I end up having to use the Amagi as it's essentially intended, right? Like, it's been relegated to this role where I can't push in. There's a Tirpitz right there. Speaking of power creep, one of the very first ships that power creep the Amagi's playstyle, right there. Well, it's not the B version, but the Tirpitz. When the Tirpitz released, it completely changed the ability for the Amagi to do its up-close and personal combat, because the Tirpitz is just better at it, right? It's got torpedoes, it's got that better turtle back, it's got potential secondaries up close and personal, though the Amagi secondaries can still be brutal. If you've ever been caught on the receiving end of an Amagi's secondaries in a destroyer, it'll catch you off guard and it'll shock you at times, because they are really decently accurate and they hit hard. It's got a lot of casemate secondaries, and they're nasty. But you'll see here, as we're trying to hit them, like, some of the shots that you're going to get out of the Amagi are just awful. Like, you're just going to get just trolled. I mean, we're shooting full salvos at people and getting one shell, and it ricochets because it goes exactly where it has to hit nothing. And that's always been the case with the Amagi, but again, you used to be able to combat that by getting up close and personal. There were a lot less things that could potentially kill you quickly if you got up close and personal in the Amagi. So it really does limit your ability to close the distance. And so the Amagi has kind of been relegated to this, I gotta get distance, I gotta kite, I gotta, do long-range snipey things, and then pick your moments to get up close and personal. And I think that's still a viable way to play the ship. I just think that there are much better ships that do the job way better. And again, you can say that that is the case for the Iowa as well, and why you could argue that the Iowa has been power crept, but truthfully, I still think that the Iowa is just as strong as it's ever been. I don't think it's lost any of its effectiveness because it's kind of good at everything. I think somebody said yesterday on the video in the comments that it's a jack of all trades. It can do everything pretty well, but it doesn't do anything specifically crazy well, right? There are other ships that do, more specialized things, whether it be hitting more citadels, or whether it be having more guns, or being more accurate, or what have you. But the Iowa is still just as effective, because you can't just counter one style of play of the Iowa. It can do everything. It can get up close and personal. It can be the flanker because it's got speed. It can tank. Whereas the Amagi, I mean, right now it's kind of been relegated to this just one-trick pony, and you got to rely so heavily on RNG to help you. But when the RNG starts favoring this thing, it's still one of the nastiest, hard-hitting battleships in the tier. Again, it may not happen all the time, but when it does, it can be absolutely glorious. Now, this game is going to be an interesting one. Let's get to the game at hand. This game's going to be an interesting one because we wanted to push up left initially, but we got a pretty early indication that our Shirot wasn't actually going to be all that useful. And so, seeing the Tirpitz, seeing the Iowa, knowing that there were 2 destroyers in the neighborhood, we had to back off. Now, Grom gets himself spotted, and again, our Shirot has done a really good job of not doing anything really particularly. He did end up torping the Tirpitz there, so we'll give him that. But we're going to get some good hits on this guy, and watch this. This is the radar from the enemy Ochakov, right? He kind of wasted here. That Grom was spotted shooting his guns. Like, he was shooting at the Shirok. So the Ochakov kind of burns his radar early on. And that's going to hurt us because once he goes dark, this guy's going to be a problem for the team. Now, there is a battleship off to my right, which is a battle carrier. This guy, he's right off my bow at the moment. This guy's not going to be paying attention to the fact there's a destroyer nearby. Now, we get a good look here at a broadside of a North Carolina. We're going to take that shot, and we're going to get a decent result out of it. But as we close the distance and we wait for the reload, the North Carolina, not to be outdone, decides that he doesn't want to fight us anymore, so he's going to try to run away. We're going to recognize this. We're going to place the shots out ahead of him. Now, I don't know if I overlead this or if I just get really bad dispersion here. I don't think I overlead it, but this is what we're talking about with this thing, just sometimes just swing and miss. And I thought it was a pretty good, well-placed shot, but the game disagrees, and all of our shells just completely whiff on the enemy North Carolina, leaving him alive and with just enough to continue being a problem. Now, we know the Grom is still out of here, and at the time, you'll see that I'm looking at my Ochakov like, come on, dude, I need you to radar, and he already wasted his radar. Now, in the moment, I didn't know that, but he used his radar early on. But again, the Grom had fired his guns. You didn't need to radar him right away. So we had taken a shot on him, and then you got to give yourself time to, you know, if once he goes dark, then you radar him, right? And that keeps him lit up for longer and allows him to probably be taken out. But you can see this poor battle carrier is about to get a harsh lesson in the fact that there is a destroyer nearby. But he does dodge the initial torpedoes. I thought that they were going to keep going, so you can see I turned in. I was going to take one, potentially. But you can see I'm just continuing to, like, push. I'm looking over to the left because I know at any moment that Grom could get spotted, but we now have a radar cruiser off our bow, or at least I assume it's a radar. It's a Balti, I believe, so maybe it doesn't have radar. I don't know. I forget all the freaking gimmicks of all these stupid ships that are out here. Like, I know what the ship is, I just don't know what all of its gimmicks are. There's too many gimmicks to remember nowadays. But we hit the Celtic, we destroy one of his guns, we do good, consistent damage through the bow. He takes a couple of shots at us, and I'm thinking I destroyed his rear turret there. Or it could have just been one of those situations where it looks like you destroyed something, but you didn't actually. But this battle carrier, again, charges forward and knows that there's an enemy destroyer nearby, because he saw the torps once and dodged them, but he's going to forget about it, or he just thinks that he's not in any danger. But the Amono over here is trying to capture the base. We're trying to get in position to help with that. You can see that the friendly Ochakov does radar the Grom here, and once he radars him, I mean, we're trying to get our guns on target, but unfortunately there was no way for me to actually spot him, or to know that he was going to radar when he did. And so when he finally does, I'm not ready for it. But now I've got to try to blind fire him because his radar is short duration, and we didn't have it. But we do manage to get the blind fire kill on the destroyer, taking him down, meaning we have killed our second opponent, right? Now, as we push around the corner here, we know that the Amono here, we know we got, I want to say, it's the North Carolina, but there was another battleship here too, wasn't there? Or is that still, I think it's still the North Carolina. The Iowa's on the other side of the map. The Iowa that was in the islands for the entire match. But Amono comes around the corner. We use the front guns on him. We're going to get a positive result there, finishing him off, denying the cap once again. And I thought I was going to finish him off. Did I not? I did not finish him off. But we get a shot around the island here on the North Carolina. Probably should have waited an extra second, but kind of rushed the shot. Get one Citadel, leaving the North Carolina alive, again with just enough to get away. Like, you gotta love it, right? And as the Amono comes around the corner here, we know what he's doing. He's torping. He's obviously torping. So we're just going to point our bow towards him, assuming that he launched the torps on our previous track. We've got a potential shot across the map on the Iowa, so we're just going to use auto aim here over the top of the island, kind of give it a little bit of a bump in the direction that he's going. And unfortunately, we're not going to land a shot, but you can see I am radared, meaning that that Celtic does have a radar. And so as he's pushing into the gap here, he is now bow tanking somebody that overmatches him. And he's going to get some good damage here because, you know, it's a Balti, right? They're nasty when it comes to armor piercing, and I'm essentially broadside. So as we're coming around the corner, I know I can't get the rear guns on target here, so we're just going to fire the front guns for now, and we're going to hold the rear guns until we know that we can get them around the island. And just as we get to a position where we can potentially finish him off, the North Carolina that we left alive is going to go out there and fight the Ochakov. Ochakov is going to finish him off. We've got a beautiful look to go through the bow of this Celtic. We finish him off, getting our 4th kill of the game. And you can see that if I just held my fire just a little bit longer on that North Carolina, I probably end up getting the Kraken in this match. But we defend the Alpha Cap. We've put ourselves in a position to crossfire the Iowa if he pushes through the cap. You can see my destroyers. I mean, they really didn't do a whole lot in this, at least not from what I was seeing anyway. This guy's full health. He's coming back in now. I mean, they captured bases, but that's really it. Which in the end, I guess that gave us the points lead we needed to win the match. Because this Iowa, despite capturing the base in the Iowa, I think he captured the base, but despite doing that, he's in a position where he has to push forward to win. He's going to have to try to kill something in order to win. And the Ochakov shouldn't get himself spotted. Should be able to just run away at this point. And then I'm plenty of health to take on an Iowa. I mean, I'm hoping that he's dumb enough to come around the corner flat broadside, in which case I'll slap him. But nah, he's kind of piddle farting around. He doesn't want to come out. He knows that I'm here. The guy has been playing very passively in his Iowa the entire game. And unfortunately for him, that passivity is going to be the inevitable downfall of his team. If he could have pushed in with that Tirpitz, this game may have ended differently. Not saying it was the right play by the Tirpitz to push straight across the map like that, but in the instance, I mean, you had 2 destroyers in the neighborhood that you could have helped out. You had your Tirpitz that you could have helped out, and with a Tirpitz and an Iowa plus the destroyers, it would have been a hard thing to counter, right? But in this instance, it worked out for our team. Our team did just enough to win the match. And the Amagi showcased that it can still do things, but yeah, it's still, I think, one of the ships that has been truly power crept through the years. 3,153 base XP, though, doing what we got to do to win the match. Confederate high caliber 4 kills. Let me know if you guys agree. Do you think the Amagi has been power crept? I think it has. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.